What if the girl everyone ignored and walked past on the street was about to become one of the richest people in the entire country? What if her life of pain and hunger was the very reason a dying billionaire chose her? And what if her very first decision with all that power and money was a shocking act of revenge disguised as kindness? This is the unbelievable true story of Adanna, the homeless girl who became a billionaire, and her first decision that left the entire nation speechless. In the vibrant, beating heart of Port Harcourt, where the air hummed with the noise of commerce and the salty tang of the ocean, there was a story the city had long forgotten. It was the story of a young girl named Adanna. Her name meant her father's daughter, but she had not known her father for many years. To the busy people rushing past, Adanna was just another part of the landscape of hardship, an invisible ghost in a world of concrete and ambition. She lived not in a house, but in the remnants of one, a small, corrugated iron shack pieced together from discarded boards and rusty metal, leaning wearily against the back wall of the Mile 1 market. Her world was a symphony of harsh sounds and harsher realities. The screech of Danfo brakes, the angry shouts of bus conductors, the pungent smell of overripe fruit from the garbage heaps, and the cold, hard ground that was her bed. Yet, if you ever stopped to look, which few ever did, you would see in her eyes a light that not even the deepest hunger could extinguish. She was small for her 14 years, with keen, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She watched the children in their crisp school uniforms with a longing that was a physical ache, a deep sorrow that sat in her chest like a stone. She learned numbers by counting the discarded plastic bottles, and she learned words by eavesdropping on the market women as they argued over prices and gossiped about their neighbors. Her only possessions were a chipped plastic bowl, a faded, threadbare wrapper tied around her thin frame, and a small, smooth, gray stone her mother had given her before a terrible fever took her away. Her mother had said it was a piece of a brave lion's heart, and Adanna called it her lucky heart, clutching it tight during thunderstorms and lonely nights. Adanna's days were a relentless, grueling cycle of survival. She would wake before the sun, her stomach already growling a hollow song, and join the other street children in scouring the market for any leftover food that the vendors might throw away. Some days were kind. Mama Nkechi, the woman selling akara, might wink and slip her a few leftover balls once the morning rush was over. Brother Chinedu, the fruit seller with a soft heart hidden beneath a tough exterior, would sometimes toss her a bruised mango, saying it was too damaged to sell. But other days were long and cruel, filled with nothing but the gnawing emptiness in her belly and the harsh words of those who shooed her away like a stray dog, calling her Ashawapikin and dirty thing. On one such day, after being chased away from a restaurant for standing too close to the entrance, she found a single squashed meat pie in the gutter. Her mouth watered, her stomach clenched, but as she was about to take a bite, she saw little Kofi, a boy of no more than 6, watching her with huge, watery eyes, his own hunger a silent scream. Without a second thought, Adanna broke the pie in two and gave him the larger piece. This was her nature. But Adanna had a secret ritual that fed her soul when her body was starving. Every evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in glorious shades of orange and purple, she would climb onto a stack of empty crates behind the main market and look up at the glittering windows of the tall office buildings. She would imagine the lives of the people inside, people who wore clean clothes, who ate until they were full, who had homes with soft beds and mothers and fathers. She would clutch her lucky heart until her knuckles were white and whisper a simple, powerful promise to the first evening star. One day, I will not just look at the light from down here, I will live in it. I will be warm and I will be safe. It was this promise, this unshakable flicker of hope, that kept her spirit alive when her body was at its weakest. She didn't know it then, But her life was about to change in a way that was more miraculous and terrifying than any of her starry-eyed dreams. Unknown to Adanna, her fate was being watched by a man who lived in one of those very towers she admired. His name was Chief Olumide Adebayo, one of the richest men in all of Nigeria. He was a self-made billionaire, a legend who had started with a single, rickety fishing boat and, through a combination of relentless hard work, sharp intelligence, and unwavering integrity, built an empire that stretched across oil, shipping, and telecommunications. But his vast wealth, the subject of countless magazine features, had not brought him peace. He was old now, and his heart was heavy with a grief time had not healed. He had lost his beloved wife, Naoma, and their vibrant young daughter, Chioma, 15 years ago in a tragic car accident on the Third Mainland Bridge. Since then, a profound, echoing loneliness had settled in his grand, empty mansion in Ikoyi. The laughter had died, replaced by the hollow sound of his own footsteps on the marble floors. He had nephews and nieces who flocked around him during Christmas and birthdays, their smiles never reaching their eyes, their conversations always subtly steering towards business, investments, and the state of his health. Chief Adebayo saw their greed as clearly as he saw the Lagos Lagoon from his window, and it filled him with a deep disappointment. He wanted to leave his legacy to someone who understood the true value of life, not just the price of things.
One rainy afternoon, as his driver navigated the perpetually traffic-jammed streets of Diabu, Chief Adebayo saw a scene that would pierce his soul and stay with him forever. Through the rain-streaked window of his armored car, he saw a young homeless girl, Adanna, not fighting over a piece of bread with the other children, but instead calmly breaking it in half and giving the larger piece to a tiny crying boy who was shivering in the downpour. In that simple, selfless act, in the face of her own desperate need, the chief saw a light he had thought was extinguished from the world. He saw the spirit of his own late Chioma. Intrigued and deeply moved, Chief Adebayo began to discreetly inquire about the girl. He tasked his most trusted aide, a no-nonsense but fair woman named Mrs. Chidi, to learn her story. They learned her name was Adanna, that she had lost her mother 2 years prior, and that she had no living relatives anyone knew of. They discovered her reputation for quiet kindness, how she would help the old, frail market woman, Mama Amina, carry her heavy buckets of water from the communal tap in exchange for nothing more than a grateful smile and sometimes a piece of coconut. They learned she knew the names of all the other street children and would often share the little food or money she managed to scavenge. The more Chief Adebayo learned, the more a radical, beautiful, and terrifying idea began to form in his wise old mind. He couldn't just give her money. That would be like pouring an ocean into a small cup. It would overwhelm and likely destroy her. He needed to know if the light in Adanna's heart was as strong and resilient as he believed it to be. He decided to set a test, a final trial that would reveal her true character. He arranged for Mrs. Chidi to approach Adanna with a proposition. Mrs. Chidi, looking severe in a crisp suit, found Adanna sorting through a pile of discarded plastic bottles. She told her that a respectable, wealthy family was looking for a live-in housemaid. The job would be hard, the hours long, and the work menial, scrubbing floors, washing clothes, helping in the kitchen. But in return, she would be given a small, clean room of her own and 3 solid meals a day. To Mrs. Chidi's surprise, Adanna's thin face did not light up at the mention of food, but at the mention of a room. A real room with a roof and a door. She accepted immediately, her heart pounding with a wild, fearful hope she hadn't felt in years. For 3 long months, Adanna worked tirelessly in what she believed was Chief Adebayo's secondary residence in GRA. She cleaned until the tiles shone. She cooked simple meals. She weeded the garden under the hot sun, never complaining, always grateful for the roof over her head and the full plate of food at every meal. She was diligent, honest, and humble. She even used her small monthly stipend to buy pencils and sweets for the other street children on her one day off. Chief Adebayo, often watching from a distance or through Mrs. Chidi's detailed reports, saw it all. His heart filled with pride and love he had not felt in decades. He knew then, without a shadow of a doubt, that his search was over. He had found not just an heir, but a daughter. The day that would shatter and remake Adanna's universe started like any other. She had just finished mopping the downstairs veranda when Mrs. Chidi, her expression unreadable, told her the owner of the house wished to see her in the main study. Adanna's blood ran cold. Was she in trouble? Had she broken something? Had she not cleaned well enough? With trembling hands, she smoothed down her simple dress and followed Mrs. Chidi into the main study, a room she had only ever dusted from the doorway, a sanctuary of books and rich leather that intimidated her. There, sitting in a large leather chair, was Chief Olumide Adebayo himself. Adanna's knees felt weak. She had seen his picture in the newspapers, but in person he was both imposing and radiated a strange, gentle kindness. "Come in, my dear. Sit down, please," he said, his voice a warm, deep rumble. Adanna nervously sat on the very edge of the plush chair, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her eyes fixed on the intricate patterns of the Persian rug. Chief Adebayo began to speak softly. He told her the whole truth, that the job as a maid was a test, that he had been the one watching her from his car that rainy day, and that he had arranged for her to come to this house to see her character for himself. He saw the confusion and a flicker of betrayal in her eyes. Then, his voice thick with emotion, he told her about Nenoma and Chioma, about the accident and about the deep, cavernous emptiness that had been his life for 15 years. "Adanna," he said, leaning forward, his eyes glistening with unshed tears, "in you I have seen a strength, a kindness, and a purity of heart that I have been searching for all these years. I am an old man, with no children of my own blood to carry on my name or my legacy." And he picked up a thick, formidable document from his desk. He declared, "This is my last will and testament, and I have rewritten it. I am making you, Adanna, my sole heir. Everything I own, my companies, my properties, my entire fortune will belong to you. You are no longer a housemaid. You are, if you will have me, my daughter." The words hung in the air, so immense, so impossible, that Adanna's mind simply couldn't grasp them. Billionaire? Heir? Daughter? The room seemed to tilt and spin. It felt like a dream, a fantastical story the old griots in the village would tell. She looked from the chief's sincere, hopeful, and vulnerable face to the imposing legal papers stamped with official seals. Tears, hot and uncontrollable, began to stream down her face. But these were not tears of joy for the money. They were tears of overwhelming, soul-shaking emotion for the man before her. He was not giving her charity. He was giving her a family. He was giving her a father, a name, a place in the world. He was giving her everything she had whispered to the stars. She stood up, her legs trembling so violently she thought they would buckle, and instead of reaching for the papers, she walked slowly around the desk and threw her arms around the old man in a tight, heartfelt embrace, burying her face in his expensive agbada. "Thank you, Baba," she whispered, using the Yoruba word for father that had been foreign to her lips for so long. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for bringing me home." Chief Adebayo held her close, his own tears finally falling freely onto her hair. He had not just found an heir, but a daughter. And in that moment, a part of his own broken heart began to mend. The news, of course, exploded through the city like a bomb. Newspapers ran sensational headlines with her picture, "From gutter to billions," and "The Cinderella of Port Harcourt, made to magnet." Everyone, from the market women who had sometimes given her food to the high society elites who sipped champagne at the yacht club, waited with bated breath. What would this new billionaire, this girl from the streets, do with all that power and money? Would she buy a fleet of golden cars, a palace on the coast? Would she seek revenge on those who had wronged her? The whole city was watching, a chorus of speculation and jealousy, and her first decision would indeed stun every single one of them, rewriting the meaning of power in their minds. The day of the press conference was pure chaos.
Reporters and television cameras from across Africa jammed the grand ballroom of the Echo Hotels and Suites. Chief Adebayo's extended family was also there, seated in the front row, their faces tight with barely concealed anger and disbelief. They had expected to divide his vast wealth amongst themselves, and were utterly furious that it had been given to a street urchin, a nobody. When Adanna walked onto the stage, dressed not in flashy European fashion, but in a beautiful, elegant, and simple Nigerian gown made of deep blue asaoki, a hush fell over the crowd. She was no longer the frail, dirty girl from the market. She stood with a quiet, unshakable dignity that commanded respect. She took the microphone, her voice clear and steady, yet still carrying the faint, honest rhythm of the streets that had raised her. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her eyes scanning the room, making contact with the cynical reporters and the furious relatives. "I know you are all here for one reason. You are wondering what a girl like me will do with the incredible fortune Chief Adebayo has so generously and trustingly given me. Many of you expect me to be overwhelmed, to be greedy, to run to the nearest boutique and never return." A slight, knowing smile touched her lips. "Well, I have made my first major decision." She paused, letting the silence build, letting the anticipation reach its peak. "I have decided not to buy a new mansion for myself. I have decided not to take a trip on a private jet around the world. My first act is to use a significant portion of this wealth, 1 billion naira, to build something new, to build a future for those who, like me, have been forgotten." She then announced the name, and the room was so silent you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. "I am founding the Adebayo Foundation for the Unseen. Our first project will be to build a modern, safe, and beautiful shelter and school complex right here in Port Harcourt, dedicated to every child who has ever had to call the streets their home. It will be called the Lucky Heart Home." The silence broke into a wave of gasps, murmurs, and then, slowly, building into thunderous, rolling applause. She detailed her vision with the precision of someone who had lived it. It would not be a grim, depressing orphanage, but a vibrant center of hope and opportunity. There would be clean dormitories with real beds and mosquito nets, not mats on the floor. A dining hall that served 3 nutritious meals a day, not scraps from the garbage. A clinic with a full-time nurse and doctor on call. And most importantly, a school with dedicated, caring teachers where the children could learn not just from books, but trades, arts and skills, from coding to carpentry, from baking to hairdressing, to build their own self-sufficient futures. No child, Adanna said, her voice cracking with raw emotion, should have to fight a stray dog for a piece of bone. No child should have to learn to count by counting their own hunger pains or the number of times they are kicked in a day. I was one of those unseen children. I was a ghost. But Chief Adebayo saw me. He looked past the dirt and the rags and saw a human being worthy of love and investment. And now I will make it my life's work to see every one of them. This is not charity. This is an investment in the future of our nation. Her decision stunned everyone because it was not born of greed, but of profound gratitude and deep empathetic wisdom. She wasn't moving away from her past in shame. She was using her newfound power to transform that past into a future for thousands. The market women who had known her wept with joy in front of their small television sets. Chief Adebayo, watching from the side of the stage, had never felt prouder in his entire life. He realized then that his true legacy was not in the bricks of his buildings or the staggering numbers in his bank accounts, but in the heart of this remarkable girl who was turning his wealth into a river of hope for the forgotten. proving that the greatest revenge against a cruel world is not violence, but radical, shocking kindness. Adanna's story did not end with her becoming a billionaire. That was where her true story began. Under her passionate guidance and with Chief Adebayo's wise business counsel, the Adebayo Foundation flourished beyond anyone's imagination. The Lucky Heart Home became a beacon of light, not just in Port Harcourt, but a model replicated in 3 other states. Children who had once fought like animals to survive now fought to get the best grades in mathematics and science. They learned to read Shakespeare and Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, to write their own stories, to code their own simple apps, to bake perfect bread, and to sew beautiful clothes. They discovered, many for the first time, that their dreams were valid and achievable. Adanna made sure that every child felt seen, heard, and loved. She knew each of them by name, knew their fears and their passions. She and Chief Adebayo developed a deep, genuine father-daughter bond that filled the empty spaces in both of their hearts. He taught her about business, about negotiation, and about the importance of integrity in a corrupt world. And she, in return, reminded him daily about the power of compassion, the strength in vulnerability, and the beauty of offering second chances. As for Chief Adebayo's greedy relatives, they did try to contest the will, hiring expensive lawyers and creating a media circus. But the story of Adanna's kindness had captured the nation's heart, and the courts, seeing the overwhelming evidence of the chief's sound mind and Adanna's virtuous character, upheld his decision firmly. In the end, they were publicly shamed by their own avarice and faded into obscurity. Adanna's life became a living testament to the idea that your beginnings do not define your endings, and that the truest wealth is not what you keep for yourself in a vault, but what you give away from a place of love. She proved, for all the world to see, that even the smallest dirt-covered light, when nurtured with belief and opportunity, can grow to illuminate the darkest of places and guide countless others home. Moral lesson. So what is the profound lesson we can all learn from Adanna's incredible journey? The moral of our story is this: true wealth and legacy are not measured by the money in your bank account, but the kindness in your heart and the positive, lasting impact you have on the lives of others. No matter how little you have, there is always something you can give. A kind word, a helping hand, a shared piece of bread, a moment of your time. And when you are blessed with more, do not turn your back on those who are still standing in the place you once were. Your greatest legacy will never be what you built for yourself, but the hope you plant in the hearts of others. You proved for all the world to see that even the smallest dirt-covered light, when nurtured with belief and opportunity, can grow to illuminate the darkest of places and guide countless others home.
Moral lesson. So what is the profound lesson we can all learn from Adanna's incredible journey? The moral of our story is this: true wealth and legacy are not measured by the money in your bank account, but by the kindness in your heart and the positive, lasting impact you have on the lives of others. No matter how little you have, there is always something you can give: a kind word, a helping hand, a shared piece of bread, a moment of your time. And when you are blessed with more, do not turn your back on those who are still standing in the place you once were. Your greatest legacy will never be what you built for yourself, but the hope you plant in the hearts of others. If this story of hope, resilience, and incredible kindness touched your heart and reminded you of the power we all hold within, then do not forget to subscribe to our channel. We bring you powerful, life-changing African tales like this every single week. Stories that inspire, teach, and remind us of the beautiful, unbreakable threads of our shared humanity. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a story. Share Adanna's tale with your friends and family, and let's work together to spread the light of hope across the world. Until next time, remember, your own lucky heart is always within you, waiting for its chance to shine.
the chain of excellence, we have to have a journey towards unity and progress.